losing his kids. Bea sent them off to England. She sent David off to rugby. You know rugby school, where Tom Brown's school days were set. I think it was her old man's idea. Anyway, he forked out for it, and George was furious. As far as he was concerned...
She's turning my son into Lord Foppington, pouncing about with all these ruling class snots. Don't I have any rights at all, Duff? I'm the boy's father, for Christ's sake.
What did Bea say?
She said I'd forfeited my rights by leaving her.
She left you?
Yeah. Well, I am the one having the affair.
Yeah, there is that.
They're breeding grounds of cruelty, English public schools. If the ruling class know anything, they know how to be exquisite bullies. The only way to survive is to develop a contempt for weakness. Even the weak themselves develop it. They end up fueled by their own self-loathing.
David's not weak.
Yes, he is. He doesn't believe in himself. He doesn't believe in anything. Neither of them do.
I often thought rugby was the making of David. I'd never say this to George, but I actually thought he blossomed. He became a sort of gentle eccentric, in a way that would have been impossible for him in Australia, at the time anyway. I'm assuming you don't want to speak at the funeral?
No.
Lindsay rang me this morning. She said she'd like someone from the university to say a few words.
Someone like Lindsay herself.
How would you feel if Lindsay were to say a few words? Like, not as his ex-wife, of course, but in her capacity as dean of faculty.
I feel sick.
I thought you might.
This is unbelievable. Where did you hear this?
Professor Dubois.
Oh, dear God. Lindsay? George? You're closing the French department now. What's going on? Of course it's my business. What are you talking about? You want me to look the other way while you vandalise the arts faculty. I'm coming over. I'll be there in 10 minutes. French, for Christ's sake.
George?
What?
I made this for our dinner.
Is it liver cleansing?
Kidney bean casserole.
How about I meet you at Popolino's? Say, 8:30?
You are incorrigible.
And you are gorgeous.
He was incorrigible. Infuriating.
The situation, as I'm sure you're well aware.
What?
You talk about this as though it were a fait accompli.
It is a fait accompli. The faculty has a $2 million operating deficit. By the year 2005, your department will be $500,000 in debt. The time has come to think carefully about your income-generating activities.
Perhaps we could have an interdepartmental sausage sizzle.
This is serious, George. I'm talking about consulting work with private enterprise. I'm afraid you're going to have to renounce your tribal hostility to the corporate sector.
That, I'm afraid, is impossible. You may well do their bidding. I will not. Sugar.
You don't have a lot of choice, George. The consultant's report has identified the history department as one of the non-performing sectors. You're not getting the clients.
My enrollments are up.
But most of your students don't pay fees.
Oh, so we should be teaching tourism, marketing and hospitality management.
Look, students want practical and applied knowledge. The days of ancient Greek and Latin are over. It's just nostalgia.
That's your trump card. Nostalgia. That's your way of deflecting any criticism.
You and I both know that taught well, the vocational subjects can have the same transformational power as a traditional discipline.
You and I both know that that is complete hogwash. You seriously want me to believe that the natural place to seek answers to the riddles of human existence is to be found in tourism policy? I don't think so. You're a middle manager with a marketing brief. How can I make this university more like a shopping mall?
My brief is about survival.
Oh, you'll survive all right. Managers and cockroaches.
I'm talking about the survival of the university. The trouble with you, George, is that you refuse to take responsibility for the future.
There are many possible futures, Lindsay. You don't have a monopoly on that. But let's get real here.
No. You get real. In the first place, you can't just turn your back on what students want to learn, because they'll just go elsewhere.
Good. Because your customer-oriented marketing posture means that the least academically challenging course is privileged every time.
Their demands are fairly straightforward. They want a job at the end of it.
You want to turn our students into corporate fodder. You've lost sight of the function of a university to produce educated citizens, not just compliant employees.
For Christ's sake, George, how can you be so simplistic?
Lindsay, you're ushering in the Dark Ages. No, worse. At least in the Dark Ages, there were monasteries where scholarship and learning were encouraged.
Within 12 months, it is highly likely that your department will close. What are your strategies, George?
That's the wrong question, Professor. You ask, how do we implement the corporate agenda? The real question is, how do we fight it?
What's happening? We've had to cut down some elm trees to make way for the Institute of Global Studies.
I saw the graffiti. Think global, fuck local.
It's usually more personalised. Professor Graham is a Philistine, Graham is a fascist, that sort of thing.
This is the woman whose PhD thesis was called Manning the Barricades. Mind you, when she got heavily into feminism, she snuck in and changed the name to Our Day of the Barricades.
Let's get this funeral organising, shall we?
Lindsay, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but Poppy has burned all of Dad's correspondence.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, yes. It's with the lawyers at the moment. I'm going to press charges.
Oh, good.
What's the legal situation? I was thinking perhaps they were hers to burn.
They were not hers.
I'm afraid, true to form, George didn't bother about a will. God?
He didn't leave a will.
People who believe they're immortal always die intestate.
Well, the letters are probably Poppy's then, aren't they? She's his wife.
It's more complex than that. We'll be arguing that they're the intellectual property of the university. Are you okay?
Yeah.
What's up, love?
Nothing.
What's up, the letters? I think the most important thing is to make Poppy understand that it'd be best for everyone if she didn't attend the funeral.
Lindsay, she's George's wife. You must stop treating her as an interloper.
I'm treating her as a criminal, actually. But what I'm saying is that people at the funeral feel nothing for that girl, except contempt.
I think you're underestimating people.
She doesn't want to come. She told me. She feels humiliated about him having an affair.
If it's true.
Of course it's true. He really didn't care about any of us. Not me, not you, not Poppy, none of us. Face it. The man did not care. As for the funeral, I don't know why you're bothering. Because I'm not. I'm not even going to be there.
I've gone over it again and again, trying to remember the intensity of the feeling. Because I didn't doubt for a moment. I went straight to your garage and I did it. Now I just feel numb. George believes so deeply that Lindsay was wrong. I know. Brash Industries, the Institute of Global Studies, it was all immoral. Yeah. And to think, she would have the audacity and the lack of ethics to use his reputation when he was dead, when he couldn't fight back. So I fought for him. Well, that was the idea. I really wanted to do the right thing, Duff. But now it just looks like some shabby little act of revenge on the part of a jealous wife. Thanks for coming, B.
You got your instructions all right? The running order and everything?
Yeah, got everything. She runs a tight ship, our Lindsay. Did you see her obituary? Today, paper. Yeah. She omitted any mention of Poppy. It's a vendetta, B. It's got to stop. The girl's delirious with grief. Her husband's dead. She's being vilified for everybody, and now she's tormented by the fact that George died with some woman she doesn't know.
What do you think, Duff? Do you think he was cheating on her too?
It doesn't look good.
Look after yourself.
One time, I remember, we drove down to North Point on the island because someone said they'd seen some whales. There must have been about 30, diving and spurting and looking around out there in the strait. And we got talking to this timber worker who brought his son to them. Trevor, his name was. A real redneck, mouthing off about unions and blacks and tree-hugging greenies. And I'm thinking, how are we going to give this bloke the flick? Not George. He wanted some fishing tips. So that night, the four of us stood at the bottom of the beach, at the edge of the world, and we fished, with these great rods in the air. And at midnight, we built a fire on the beach, and fried up the fish, and knocked back a few beers. And this man Trev and his son, they talked. To George, really. Cutting timber was all that bloke knew. But he'd been out of work for almost a year, and he was only just hanging on. But as the sun rose and we packed up our things, I could see that this bloke was feeling stronger. He felt he'd been heard. He felt closer to his boy. That night was like a light in the darkness for me. And George did that to people. I taught him to fly. Did you know? I taught him. But George, mate, George, you taught me to live.
Poppy, I have something to show you. This is a letter which didn't get burned because it's been in my handbag. George sent this to me in San Jim, the day before your wedding. I think you'd like her, babe. I want you, of all the people in this world,
to know that this is not the folly of a middle-aged man. She's everything I thought I would mistrust. Headstrong, brave, beautiful, of course, and as open-minded as the sunrise. She thinks in different ways. What I must judge as her lack of politics is actually a truly radical sensibility. At the core of her being, she is genuinely open to the possibilities for change. And yes, she was my postgraduate student, but I didn't fall in love with her over a thesis. I bumped into her one night on St Kilda Pier, fishing. The postmodern girl sat there in shorts and a grotty t-shirt with a plastic bucket and 3 dead fish.
You can see why I was smitten. So be happy for me, babe.
Say a prayer to your Tuscan God for both of us, because, my love, I never dare to hope that I should pass this way again.
Your loving ex, George. I just wanted to remind you of how much he loved you.
I don't understand you sometimes, Mum. I know you've made another life, you've got Raffy and you have a lovely time together in San Jim. But doesn't it hurt you just a little bit? I mean, why would Dad write to you about how much he loved another woman? I don't get it. Don't you want him to say that the day he left was the most stupid thing he's ever done, and he's regretted it for the rest of his life?
Why do you want him to say that?
Because you're my mother. Isn't that what every kid wants whose parents are divorced?
Anna.
Don't. I know what you're going to say. Most people get over it by the time they're 28, right? Well, I don't know why I can't get over it.
Anna. I didn't read her the whole letter.
What are you doing here?
I'm bored.
Really? For an academic, you have the concentration span of a gnat.
That's because I know you're just down the corridor. You're going to have to change universities. It's impossible. I can't work.
Maybe we could go home for lunch.
I thought we could go to Port Fairy, actually.
Now?
Tomorrow. But we'll have to find someone to feed Beatrix's dog.
Duffy, come in.
I'm sorry to disturb. I know you're busy.
I was daydreaming, actually. Do you remember that fishing holiday the four of us took to Port Fairy? You and Nell, George and I. When was that?
I don't know. 1979, maybe.
Are you okay?
They've identified the woman on the plane. It was Rachel.
Rachel.
I'm so sorry.
I need to talk to you.
What about?
This young woman. Rachel. Has written me a letter to tell me that I'm a father and you were a mother and that she's made contact with you, but you're not ready to see her yet. Is this true, Lindsay? Lindsay. Answer me!
How dare they do this? You enter into it on the understanding that the confidentiality will never be broken.
You had a baby. My baby.
This is the most profound betrayal of trust.
Oh, you're telling me! I'm assuming this is why you went to Sydney to finish your PhD. I'm assuming that this happened as a result of that one night, yes? After we went to see Gough at the town hall. And then we went to the front bar at Stewart's. And after that we went back to your house in Parkville. Once. And then you and I were married for 10 years, and not once did you feel able to tell me that you and I had a daughter.
I got pregnant 2 months before Anna was born.
Don't tell me that! Don't you think I can do the maths? Jesus Christ!
What choice did I have?
You had the obvious one! The screaming fucking obvious one!
That's not true! You've forgotten. Abortion wasn't even legal and I couldn't...
I'm not talking about abortion, for Christ's sake. I'm talking about the choice you made not to tell me.
You were so ashamed of what we'd done that if I told you we'd also made a baby...
What?
I don't know what. But it would have been the end of us.
You've kept this secret for 27 years, Lindsay. Wasn't there ever any occasion, any moment of intimacy or tenderness or trust when you felt you could tell me this? Does it occur to you that our entire marriage was based on fraudulence?
Dearest B, my first and loveliest wife, I am filled today with a sense of how blessed I have been to have been known and held and loved by so astonishing a woman.
We grew up together, you and I. I look back now and see the girl and boy we were in Paris, filled with the magic of that city and the exhilaration of the times. The academic, the painter, the mother, the father, the outsiders, and eventually the Australians. I loved you as much as any man could love a woman, but it came to an end.
Our girl is sad, and perhaps we made her so. Our boy is a drifter, and we never really know whether we gave birth to a traveller or a drifter.
This is the universe in which I've lived, making do. married for a second time to a steel-bright woman who never quite has time. And every evening, have I ever told you this? I have walked your dog, Constable, whatever possessed you to call it that. Yes, walked your old, slow, brown-eyed dog through the pathways of Royal Park and round beyond the zoo. I watch myself from a distance, Professor George and his first wife's yellow dog, walking lonely in the park.
Well, my love, mother of my children, deserter of Constable. I am to be married. I am to wait at the altar a third and final time, and I know that in the eyes of some, ladies who lunch, disappointed divorcees and fornicating pharmacists who gaze in judgment on the street, in the eyes of these I shall seem a fool, but hell is other people, and I am me, and she is she.
So be happy for me, Bee. Say a prayer to your Tuscan God for both of us, because, my love, I never dared to hope that I should pass this way again.
Our girl is sad. At the end of all the hundreds of thousands of words my father wrote, that's it. Our girl is sad, and perhaps we made her so. I didn't expect to be a topic of conversation in his letters to Manning Clark or Milton Friedman, but in a letter to my mother. That's it then.
How many times did George see her? Rachel?
I'm not sure. 2 or 3.
You didn't tell me.
You didn't want to know.
Of course I did. The first letter arrived on the day I was inaugurated as Dean. I couldn't deal with it, Duff. I put the letter in the back of the cupboard and I thought I'd just have to wait for the right time. So the following September, I took a week off and I tried to write to her. That was a black week, I tell you. And when I went back to work, I had these crippling panic attacks, so I knew I had to make a choice. I'd have to resign and deal with my demons, or commit myself to being Dean of the Arts faculty. So I cut her out of my life. Again. And all the time I'm asking myself, what is the appropriate course of action for someone in my position? And I end up comparing myself to some fictitious man doing my job. How would he cope if this had happened to him? And I know he'd just bury his pain and get on with it. That's why you get paid good money. Because people trust that you'll put the job first.
I just don't understand it, Duff. How she could be so callous. It's not normal.
Some women just don't have maternal feelings.
This is more than maternal feelings. This is about essential morality, isn't it? There's a kid out there who's in real pain, and Lindsay and I are largely responsible. There's no getting around that. And she, more than me, oh, fuck it! I didn't even know. And she's just turned her back. What kind of woman is that?
What would you have done if you'd known? All those years ago? Would you have said to me, you know, while you were 7 months pregnant, I was having sex with an extremely beautiful woman, and she got pregnant. So, unfortunately, I have to do the right thing and marry her. Sorry. Or would you have said to Lindsay, go away and do whatever you have to do. If you need money, I'll help you. I never want to see you again. Because that's what she feared. Don't you see? She was so in love with you.
Mum?
Oh, your brother just phoned.
David?
He's just got back to his village.
You told him? Is he coming home?
No.
I'm sorry, is this a bad time?
It is now.
Hannah, please.
Hey, you expect me to be civil to this person? I'm sorry. I don't want you here.
Anna, just hear me out.
Why?
For your father's sake. Lindsay wanted to use George's correspondence to give intellectual prestige to the Institute of Global Studies.
And I'm supposed to care?
Anna, for the last 2 years, George was campaigning against Lindsay and the Institute. It would be such a violation of everything he stood for if we let them use his name and his reputation. I burnt the letters.
You burnt the letters as an act of revenge.
Anna, the letters were not that important to George.
Oh, yeah, right. He was going to burn them himself, is that what you're saying?
Hannah, he can't have cared about the letters that much. He left them in Duffy's garage.
They were packed in archive boxes. It has never occurred to you, has it, that I deserve to say that I might have wanted to keep those letters?
I'm sorry, Anna. I really wasn't thinking about their value as personal memorabilia.
I'm sure you weren't.
All I thought was that I had to stop Lindsay from using them and making out that she was doing so with his blessing.
You and Lindsay, you're just the same. You use politics to cover for you. You take the high moral ground when really you're just being manipulative.
I'm sorry that's what you think. I wanted to lash out at her, I admit that. I wanted to rob her of any prestige associated with George whatsoever. But I had to find a way of asserting my status.
Status? Is that what you wanted?
I just want to be acknowledged as George's wife. I thought that was fair enough.
I'm his daughter, and I've never had any status.
That's not true.
Look, I don't think you quite understand. I've spent a large part of my life being ignored by my father. That's okay. That's just the way it's worked out. But I do have this need to know who he was. People say you knew my dad by reading his books. Well, I've already done that, and I'm still in the dark. I really hoped I'd find something in his private letters.
What is it that you're looking for, Anna? You talk about being ignored by him. That's not how he saw it. From his point of view, he was denied the opportunity to have a relationship with you.
What do you mean?
Are you suggesting that was my doing?
You took his children away.
And who do you think was going to look after them? Lindsay? I don't think so. What you don't understand, because you're such a child of this generation, is that I gave up my career, I gave up my home to come here with him in '69. So when he decided he didn't love me anymore, I wasn't going to give up my children as well.
Can I just say this? I didn't fabricate this political rationalisation. I grew up in a very polite, middle-class world, thinking that all political activity could be worked out at the negotiating table. But those bastards are running roughshod over everyone. So there comes a time when you have to act.
No, there comes a time when you have to organise. I thought at the very least you would have learned that from Dad. Mobilise your supporters. Don't just indulge yourself in a solitary gesture.
I think it was an act of radicalism worthy of George. And by that, I mean impulsive, passionate, and full of folly. But then I'm a polite middle-class conservative. Do I have to tell them? Beatrix and Anna.
That's up to you.
Well, I'm not telling her.
Poppy, she already knows.
What?
I told her this morning.
Duffy?
The fact that George had his daughter, it's not something you can keep to yourself anymore.
Why not?
Because I won't let you. I've known you 20 years, Lynn, and I know that one of your great skills is managing the flow of information. It's a little strategy.
But that's-
Shush! It's a little strategy. It's made you very powerful. But this is not information.
Duffy,
and I want you to hear this. This is not information you have control over anymore. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stand by and let Poppy drive herself insane, thinking the man she loved died with another woman.
Nah, no class on for me. put on so much weight since I've been here.
Oh, please.
Look, I can hardly do these trousers up.
Yeah, well, I've been meaning to say, I think you've really let yourself go.
Lindsay, you look shocking.
That's the first wife said to the second wife.
I haven't slept since 1959. Have you got some strong coffee?
Croissant?
No thanks.
Lindsay, I think there are some things we need to talk through. We had Poppy here last night.
So you know then.
Know what?
About Rachel.
Who's Rachel?
Poppy didn't tell you.
No?
I'm surprised. She must have a modicum of integrity. Rachel Doyle, the girl in the plane, was my daughter. I'm sorry to tell you, I relinquished her for adoption a couple of days after she was born.
You had a daughter.
George never knew. Until about 6 months ago. I never told him.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. George was the father,
Yes.
and you never told him.
No.
But how come he didn't know you were pregnant?
I went to Sydney. It was a long time ago.
So, this girl, how old is she?
28.
Same age as me.
I'm sorry.
Are you sure this wasn't information you should have told me alone?
I didn't want to tell either of you, B. I never have. But now this has happened, I thought Anna should hear it from me.
And you've never met her? This girl?
No.
You've never met your daughter?
No.
I'm sorry, Lindsay. I'm truly sorry.